Last time, on Alone in the Shadows of Brimstone.
In Masthead, whispers of werewolves haunting Clayton Ravine reached our ears. Resolving to investigate, we set course for Lestina, the nearest town to the ravine. En route, at the edge of Fringe, we encountered a monastery, home to a Capuchin cloister. Sister Sarah, one of the nuns, implored us to accompany her to the closest railway station. She was tasked with delivering vital documents to St. Louis. Mounted on a mule, with another laden with the papers, she was prepared for the journey. Consenting to her request, we embarked towards Seraphin's railhead. The passage was marked by calm, and upon reaching our destination, we bid farewell at the station. In parting, Sister Sarah conferred upon us a blessing, an aura of protection, she called it. With our mission with the sister complete, we pressed on to Lestina. The town, known for its lively spirit, greeted us with unsettling tidings originating from Fringe.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club. This is Keith, and tonight we're going to be playing our next episode of Alone in the Shadows of Brimstone, my campaign series for Shadows of Brimstone. Before we begin, I'm going to discuss a few things that I found out in the rules. I was examining the revised rulebook. Now, I purchased the first edition of the two core sets, so I did not buy the revised edition. So I was just kind of glancing through that rulebook online in the PDF version, and I found out that grit cannot be used on chart rolls, and I kind of knew that, or at least I played it that way prior to even examining the revised rules. But it does say that there are exceptions to that. You can't use it to re-roll a roll made on a chart, a travel hazard, a town location event, etc. But the exceptions are if the action would kill a hero outright, you can spend a grit if you have it in an attempt to prevent that death of the hero. Also, you can also use it to re-roll a chart roll in an attempt to remove an injury, madness, mutation, etc. So this is quite important to me. I wasn't aware that you could even do this. Somehow, in my reading of the book years ago, I just assumed that any chart rolls that's it. You have no recourse in those. But the grit tokens can be used in the event of the imminent death or outright death of a character in those circumstances. So that's very important to me, especially in a campaign game when you lose a character. Now, when we did lose a character earlier in the campaign, Ronaldo, he didn't have any grit, so it wouldn't have mattered. He had no grit, and he attempted that exorcism of the curse, and the demon killed him. So in that case, everything was done correctly. He didn't have any grit, but if he did, we would have been able to use it in that circumstance. The date is March 12th, 1884. The posse has arrived in the city of Lestina. We're within a 2 days ride of our destination at Clayton Ravine, where we're planning on undertaking a werewolf kin mission called First Blood. But before we do that, what I'm going to try to do, my plan is to spend a couple days in Lestina. Sky currently does not have any grit tokens, so what we're going to do is have her rest up at the hotel, and part of my campaign rules is if you don't have a grit, you can acquire a grit by just staying in the hotel room. You have the choice of either healing a chance of healing a sanity or health damage, or if you have no grit, you can acquire 1 grit. Eve is lacking funds. She doesn't have any money, and I'm going to try to be more stringent on not sharing funds between characters. If you don't have any money, well, you go to the campsite. So that's what Eve is going to be doing. She'll be staying at the campsite. then she's planning on making her way to the Indian trading post, where she's going to meet with the medicine man and inquire about a vision quest that's free. That could be helpful for us. The following day, Skye is going to try to visit the church and see if she can seek some relief from one of the two madnesses that she's carrying, the chills and open to the void. And then following the 2-day stay, we'll probably try to head out on the road and see if we can reach Clayton Ravine and undertake that mission with the werewolf feral kin. Now also, if you'll remember, in the previous episode we met up with Sister Sarah and we helped her out, and she gave us an aura of protection. So what I've done is I've also created a set of cards, like I've been doing, for these different auras, and that would be easier for me to record the different effects on the characters rather than using sticky notes, which got to be a problem. So these are a little bit more permanent. I put them on parchment, and it's like a 64-pound parchment paper, and they're pretty durable. All right, anyway, that is the plans that I've kind of worked out. We'll see if we can execute those. We're going to begin our town stay in Lestina by drawing a daily event card. And this time we have Rolling Tumbleweed. We've seen that before. Every hero may heal up to 2 sanity damage, and if this was a specialty town, we would make a roll on the daily events chart for that type of town, but it is not. So we've taken care of our daily event, and now the characters are going to select their lodging. And Skye Jones does not have any problems with money. She's got $260. So she's going to stay at the hotel, and we'll deduct $10 from her. But unfortunately, Eve Thompson has no money. So she is going to stay at the campsite. And we'll see what happens with that. So with Eve at the campsite, we're going to have to make a campsite hazard chart roll. It's one of the penalties of the free camping there. So we're going to roll 2d6 and we'll see what happens. Here's the roll. She rolls a 10, and that says uneventful night. It's an uneventful evening of drunken debauchery and raucous songs around the campfire. No effect. All right, so no problems there. And now the next step is step 3. We can visit our town locations. Well, as we said, Skye is going to remain in the hotel, and she is going to gain a grit token. So we will give her a grit, and that's going to move her up to 1 grit now. All right, now for Eve. Eve is going to make her way to the Indian trading post, and we're going to see if she can get a vision quest there. So she's going to make a roll on the location event chart for the Indian trading post, and we'll see what happens. Roll is a 9, and that says trade opportunities. The local tribe is gearing up for a major hunt, and they are looking for extra gear in Darkstone. Heroes at the Indian trading post may sell gear and artifact cards for an extra D6 times $25, and may also sell Darkstone here today for 100 per shard. Well, unfortunately, she doesn't have anything she can sell. It would have been a great opportunity to do so, but no luck. So now she's going to peruse around the Indian trading post, and I think she's going to attempt that vision quest. That's free. And it reads, sitting in a smoke-filled tent, the medicine man leads you through a vision quest with your spirit guide. And it continues. If you do not know your spirit guide yet, roll on the chart below. Each hero will only ever have 1 spirit guide, and it will always be the same once you have determined it. Grit may not be used to re-roll your spirit guide. They choose you. All right. Well, the first step is to determine our spirit guide. So we'll make a D6 roll and see the spirit guide for Eve. She rolls a 2, and that is the wolf. And that ability, if she can garner it, she'd be able to roll 5 extra dice for 1 scavenge test. That's interesting. And once again, I made a set of cards for the different spirit guides. So what I'm going to do then is I'll assign, once they determine their spirit guide, we'll just simply have the card flipped over until they actually earn the use of that spirit guide. And that's the next portion here. It says you must pass a Spirit 5+ test to gain 25 XP and the Vision Quest bonus listed for your spirit guide to use once during the next adventure. So let's see if she can do that. She's going to have to pass a Spirit 5+ test. Eve's spirit is 3. So she'll have 3 dice to be able to use for the test to determine if she can get that spirit guide. So let's try it. Looking for a 5 or greater. And she has done it. She's got the 5. That's going to earn her 25 XP, and then this spirit guide action will be active for her during the next adventure, which is awesome. We'll place that on her card. Alright, that is going to move Eve up to 355 XP, so she's approaching her point where she can level up to level 2. Alright, I think that's going to end her stay at the trading post, so she's going to return back to her campsite, and that will close out the Visit Town location step. Next step is to draw a rumor token, and this time they have information regarding an epic quest. We're going to make a roll on the epic quest table and find out what yarns they've heard. And for the sake of new viewers, I'll go over what an epic quest is. Epic quests are a way to spice up the type of missions that the posse may undertake. This is a way to bring user-created materials into the campaign in a limited but potentially memorable fashion. These missions are intended to form a major part of the campaign's narrative and may combine several missions, both official, user-created, or both, into large, sweeping narratives. When an epic quest rumor token is drawn, roll on the epic quest table and follow the prerequisite instructions on the epic quest sheet. An example of an epic quest table is provided below. I've created a total of 12 epic quests, and we'll make a roll on that table, D12, and we'll see which epic quest it is. All right, we'll make a D12 roll on that epic quest table. Result is a 12, and that says the Prince of Darkness comes to Brimstone. Let's take a look at that. All right, let's read through the prologue for the Prince of Darkness comes to Brimstone. On a cold and moonlit night, a shriek of pure terror breaks across the stillness of the town of Fringe, as the lifeless bodies of 6 school children have been found in a barn behind the blacksmith shop. The children went missing the day before, and the search for them has ended in absolute horror. The children's bodies were found with indescribable wounds to their throats, and every drop of blood had been siphoned from their bodies. The news of this horrendous act has spread across the region like a wildfire, and the members of the posse have become enraged at the vicious murder of the innocent. A local priest has declared that this is undoubtedly the work of a Nosferatu, an undead and vile creature of the night. The town has issued a reward for interested parties to hunt down the vile creature and to exact swift justice for the little children. Dozens of posses have spread out from Fringe to find the creature. Alright, so the prerequisite says place the epic quest token in the town of Fringe. If we want to undertake this, we would have to travel to Fringe and begin an investigation into the heinous murders. Each hero must make a lore 5+ test. Total the number of successes obtained from the posse and consult the chart below for the results. And that's how that mission would go. So that's pretty interesting. We're going to place that epic quest token in the town of Fringe. So the epic quest token will be placed in the town of Fringe, and that could be another option for us. Several travel cycles ride to get back to Fringe, but could be an interesting mission for us. Now, one thing about epic missions, they are not subject to completion by other parties. So we don't have to worry about that going away as long as we were to make movement towards that epic quest right away. If we choose to go after another mission, then that epic quest is subject to completion by other parties. So we'll have to make the decision now, or at least by the end of the day for our first day's stay in Lestina. Our reward would be quite significant. We would each gain 25 XP, a permanent increase to our sanity, and our willpower would be permanently improved by 1. Meaning, if we had a willpower of 4+, it becomes 3+. So that's quite a bit, that's quite powerful reward. Now, if we were to fail the mission, the heroes become completely distraught that they have let the child-murdering Prince of Darkness escape justice. Each hero would permanently lose a sanity, and their willpower would worsen by 1. So if you had a 4+ willpower, it would go to 5+, so there is risk involved. So that was a major development in the campaign. There's no doubt about that. We're going to have to think about that carefully. All right, the next step is our end of day roll, and that chart is currently at a 1, so we're going to roll a d6, and on a 1 we'll have a town event. And the result is a 1, so we will have to roll up a town event. All right, we're going to consult our town events chart, and we're going to roll 2d6 and see what happens. Roll is a 6, and that's that spreading fear again. A random town location is going to close up and may not be visited for the rest of the town stay. And then the campsite is going to dissipate and can no longer be used, and the hotel is going to double their current rate. Oh boy. All right, let's take care of that. We're going to make a roll then to determine which of the businesses are going to close up. Here's the roll. And the roll's a 3, and that is the Indian Trading Post. They've had enough. They're leaving. So that will not be available to us. And unfortunately, it looks like Eve is going to be kicked out of that campsite, and they're closing down, and we'll have to put a marker there to remind us that that can't be used. I'll put a wound marker there. And we're also going to get an increase in the daily rate at the hotel. So I'll place a 10 marker there to remind me of that. And now it's step 6, and we got to decide, are we going to stay in town or ride out? Well, before we decide on whether we're going to try this epic quest or not, let's take a little deeper look into this as to what this is going to involve. We're going to have to travel back to the town of Fringe. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 travel cycles just to get back there. Then we have to do this investigation, and we'll take a closer look at the investigation table. If we have 0 successes, if the posse cannot get any lore 5+ test results, we're going to squander 4 more days, and then we're going to have to make a mission completion roll for the remaining missions. So we could end up losing our werewolf kin mission. That's a possibility. Say if we got 1 success, we're going to have to travel to the ruins of Brimstone, which is a few travel cycles to the east. And then we would have to make a die roll. And on a 1 or 2, a 33% chance we would be able to do the setup for the mission. 3 to 6, we would have lost the trail. With 2 successes, we've tracked the vampire as far as Griff's Pass, and that's quite a bit east. And we would have to make a die roll there to reclaim the trail, his trail. And on a 1 to 4, we would proceed with setup. And finally, if we had 3 or more successes, we've actually tracked the vampire to its cave in the North Sierra Magellan's mountains. And we'd have to travel there and then do the setup, but we would gain an extra revive token due to the thoroughness of the investigation. So that's a tough one. And then once we do that, the objectives. When the heroes find the second clue icon while in another world, they have found a door leading to the tomb of the Prince of Darkness. Resolve the exploration token, but ignore any door or gate icons. Once any attacks or encounters have been resolved, the heroes must face the Prince of Darkness, a brutal vampire lord. If the vampire lord is defeated, the mission is concluded. Well, that really complicates things. I don't know if 2 characters would be strong enough first level characters to defeat a brutal vampire lord. I'm leaning towards just continuing on to the Werewolf Kin mission in Clayton Ravine, and then if the epic mission is still available, we can maybe try it in the future. I think that's what we're going to do. So I think we're going to head out. We're going to disregard the epic quest for right now, and we'll head towards Clayton Ravine. I think that's the safe play. So I think we're going to head out on the road, and we'll take this gray path west towards Clayton Ravine. And if it ends up that the epic quest is still there after the time we're done with this mission, maybe we could try it. But I just don't think we could beat a brutal vampire lord with 2 characters, especially being first level. Alright, so we're going to move to the overland travel board. Alright, so we're going to be traveling along a gray path, and we'll select a guide, and I think we're going to go with Eve once again. We'll have her lead us. Sky will follow behind. Travel pace will be a normal pace. And we're going to make our supply check. We're currently at full supply, so we've got a D10. Here's the roll. Roll is a 2, so we've lost a supply level. We're going to be down to a moderate supply level. We'll replace that with a D8. So we're down to a moderate supply level. And now we're going to make our travel hazard roll. We're going to get a +1 for being a mounted posse. Roll is a 6, and that's modified to a 7. A 7 is no hazards, but we have to check for a mount injury. We're using a normal pace. Mount injuries will occur on a D20 of 1 to 3. So we'll roll a D20 and see what we get. Hopefully we don't have one. Rolls a 12, so we are good. No injury to the mount. And that means that we have successfully arrived at Clayton Ravine. We would be able to do any heals or abilities if we had any, but no one is wounded at this point. So we are safely arriving at Clayton Ravine, and we can undertake the Werewolf Kin mission, First Blood. Alright, so Eve and Sky have successfully traveled to the Clayton Ravine area, and they've set up a temporary base camp. Let's read through the prologue and see what this First Blood mission is all about. Werewolf Mission 1, First Blood.
Massacre! There's been a massacre on the road.
Riding into town at dusk, a frantic boy stammers about a wagon train that was attacked while coming through the hills.
Everything is torn to shreds like it was a pack of wild animals. But I don't know what kind of creatures could have done that.
Barely keeping it together, the boy jumps off his horse and stares off in horror.
There was blood everywhere, wagons on fire, and screams and howling in the distance. It looks like those that weren't immediately killed ran to take shelter in a nearby cave system. If you hurry, there may still be survivors that can tell you what happened.
All right, so Eve and Sky have that for a background to this, and the setup portion of this says the mission will start in a standard mine entrance map tile, so let's do that. All right, so Eve and Sky have made it to the cave entrance that was reported to them, and they're going to do some investigating to see if they can find any survivors. Our mission goal: the heroes must search the caves for any survivors from the wagon train massacre. And we have some special rules. The enemy theme is Werewolf Adventure. The mission always uses the enemy theme adventure card for Werewolf Adventure. Alright, so we've got out our Werewolf Adventure theme card. That'll tell us about these werewolf adventures, and then we also have our werewolf encounter cards. Another special rule is fast darkness. Whenever the darkness moves forward on the depth track, because the hold back the darkness rule has failed, it moves an extra space, so it's going to go quickly. We also have grisly discoveries. Whenever the hero finds a clue icon, they have discovered the grisly remains of what once was a human. Draw 3 D3 growing dread cards and add them to the stack. Wow. And our objective is to find the last survivor. Once the hero posse marker reaches the space marked 11 on the depth track, the heroes are getting close. The next clue icon found, including any clue on a current exploration token, if the 11 space was just reached, is the location of the last survivors as the objective. Ignore any attacks or encounters listed on the final exploration token. Also ignore any door or gate icons, as the objective room has no exits. Reveal all growing dread cards in the stack as normal, and then the heroes must roll to see the status of the last survivor. Roll a d6 and add the current position of the darkness on the depth track to the roll. And those choices would either be alive, feast for werewolves, or transformation. And that's going to tell us what those statuses will mean. Our reward is going to be d6 times $50 for driving off the werewolves if the last survivor was found alive. Each hero may also draw a gear card. Failure: if the mission is failed, each hero takes d3 corruption hits as they are scarred by the horrors of what they've witnessed. Also, the local towns are scared. Heroes may not spend more than 2 days in town during their next town stay. All right, so we'll have to see what will happen with this mission, but it does not seem to be too simple, that's for sure. So we're definitely looking for an alive result on finding that last survivor. If we do that, it says the last survivor is badly hurt but alive, hiding from the worst of the werewolves. You help him out of the caves and the mission is successfully completed. So we wouldn't even have to fight anything. If we can do that, that would be great. The other one is feast for the werewolves. You're too late. A pack of vicious werewolves crowds around the body of the last survivor, feeding on what remains. And then it could be depending upon the number of heroes, we're going to have 2 heroes, it'll be D3 werewolf feral kin. However, if it goes to transformation, you found the last survivor, but something is not quite right. With a wicked grin, they begin to twist and crack as they transform into a massive and powerful werewolf. It would appear that this wagon train settler was in on the attack from the beginning. And in this case, we would have to fight 1 werewolf packmaster. Once all enemies are defeated, the heroes have successfully completed the mission. So that's what we're going to need to do. And I think we will save the start of this mission for the next video. So thank you so much for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club, and I hope you're enjoying the continuation of this 5th season of Alone in the Shadows of Brimstone. I look forward to seeing you again for another episode. And until then, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club, signing off and wishing everyone a pleasant evening. Good night.